1714.
This is John.
This is Steve coming to you from Flint's beautiful East Side, Studio 1714.
Today we're sitting here with Larry Holland, and we're talking about equal parenting and also about the friendly court system. And from the flyer that he provided, this is a staggering set of statistics. More than a quarter of American children, nearly 17 million, do not live with their father. Girls without a father in their life are 2.5 times more likely to get pregnant and 53% more times likely to commit suicide. Boys without a father in their life are 63% more likely to run away and 37% more likely to abuse drugs. Both boys and girls are twice as likely to drop out of high school, twice as likely to end up in jail, and nearly four times as likely to need help from emotional and behavioral problems. Now, in the light of this, it's like horrifying that the state and the federal government encourages the creation of single-parent families. And it's got to be, there's not only the financial matter, but it just seems like there's got to be some kind of more of a underlying contempt, whatever it seemed like, for men in this.
Well, I noticed something, and it just kind of stuck out there. They get more money.
Well, that's
Because if you go to prison, they get more money for you going to prison.
it's true.
So if they split these kids up out of their homes, the more problematic they turn out to be, the more money they're going to make off of them later on down the road.
The more single families that we have, the more dependence that families have on services provided by the state, allowing the state to basically be the parent over families.
It's almost like a creeping form of socialism. To use an expression that people try to discredit.
It makes me look like give it 20 years and you might lose the ability of free will.
Or all our liberties are going to have to take away from us because they're going to find a way of making a case for it.
Well, in Michigan, our liberties are already being taken away from us every day. For instance, we have our state's judicial agency that oversees the operations as far as family court goes, and that's the Friend of the Court. Every day they're rubber stamping orders with the judge's assistants to send people to jail because of civil debt, child support. Every day they're saying that one parent needs to be diminished in their children's lives, dropping them to nothing more than a daycare provider. Essentially, we have a very large number of parents that are nothing more than a 14% parent. House Bill 4564 is a bill that fixes some of these problems and will reduce the reliance of families with community services.
So what is that 14% pretty much like every other weekend and
Every other
holiday?
weekend, and throw in some holidays and maybe a couple weeks in the summertime. Yeah.
That's what they consider 14%?
Yeah, basically reducing one parent to the role of absent parent so that they can enroll that new single parent family into all of these community services like Title IV-A welfare TAMP services, food stamps, because every one of these services bringing more federal money by way of federal grants to the states. So the states have to fill those programs, and the more people that they can put in there, the more federal money they get.
Now, Representative Clack seems not likely to bring this up, allow this to be brought to vote or to be brought up. What is she offering in alternative? I mean, when you told me this, I think it's pretty stupid. The reasonings behind it is pretty stupid.
Well, basically, what's happened so far is that Brenda Clack at the last representative session basically brought this up to a vote and then decided to not support the bill. So at that particular session, it was 5267. This one, 4564, is essentially the same bill, and it's not going to be brought up for a vote immediately because it's going to encroach upon all of these community services that she sponsors in, like blank check community service programs that just allow an unlimited amount of spending on certain community services. With equal parenting, we won't need all of these services. We'll reduce the reliance of families on the government.
So, another thing is too is like, the one thing she wanted to emphasize, and I think is kind of like, I'm really skeptical and puzzled why, she wants like parenting classes, whatever that is. She wants to emphasize those.
Well, basically, she just recommended one particular House bill that funnels money to community services and parenting programs. They don't define how the money is supposed to be spent. It's just a blank check, as I said before, and basically doesn't do anything to really strengthen an intact family. So again, we're right back to having single-parent households created with all these staggering statistics when this problem could be solved if Brenda Clack just brings this bill up for a vote and supports it.
And she just is unlikely to. And you think it's because she's convinced that the parenting skill classes or whatever actually have legitimate purpose or
I don't think that's it at all. I think that the state is trying to solve its budget problems on the backs of our children and use these federal programs as revenue generation instead of aid to needy families, what they were originally for. So instead of solving problems for the needy families, they're creating codependence and reliance from the greedy people onto the programs.
That's just horrible.
See, this broadening, the constant building up and increasing and broadening the who's going to be served by these kind of programs, there's got a cost, and the costs are spiraling. They're way out of step with the just average cost of living. I know that because government agencies are probably the most inept way of running anything because there's so much cost attached to them. A private corporation has to try to keep those operating costs low, where the federal government, the state, and local governments have a tendency not to even put that into the equation. They just want to take and take and take and feed their head without looking at what
They're
the
kind of
costs
almost
are.
like the IRS. They don't have nobody to answer to about it.
Well,
Pretty much just doing whatever they want.
Well, now, for what your experience is, do they have a tendency to kind of shut off any kind of like criticism or questionings?
Well, here's what happens: is a friend of the court basically tries to treat every case as an independent, singular instance of a problem. So people aren't aware that these problems are widespread, and that equal parenting should be the norm instead of the extreme minority. People are just unaware of how far this problem actually goes. And Brenda Clack, like I said, could actually cure a lot of this by allowing this to come up for a vote, House Bill 4564, and supporting it.
And it's like if she is really convinced, or along with these other people, that they want the interest of the families of the children, they want to best serve that. I mean, this bill, from what I understand of it, would be a better route towards that end than whatever the nebulous idea of parenting classes are, or
It's basically like this. You wouldn't starve your children, okay? So basically, a child deserves a balanced diet of a mother and a father. It's the natural thing. Every child has been created by a mother and a father. So essentially, if you wouldn't starve your children, why would you starve them with the attention of one of the parents?
Especially if that parent is willing and
Fit and caring.
available
Mhm.
and able to, to
Absolutely.
take care of the child.
Right.
Why would
Absolutely.
that parent be taken away from that child if you're
yeah, because
Because it's profitable for the state right now, and by doing this, it levels
everything
the
leads
playing.
back to money for our frickin' state.
and then they can increase their control of us. I think that I like to have Brenda Clack and anybody else who has any opposition, or
I'd like
friend
to
of
know,
court people.
I'd
come on
like
the
to know
show.
what Granholm has to say about it.
Did you know anything about her? What she has to say?
Granholm actually derives a huge benefit from having single-parent families. All of her programs basically focus on single-parent households. So
And we just put her back in.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I didn't.
I
but-
didn't either. Well, anyway, this is John.
This is Steve.
This is Studio 1714.